So what's going on guys, Kate's here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today we'll look into the top 10 worst free-to-play MMOs in 2024. I've gathered a bunch of games that in the past 5 years I've played, some only for a few hours and some for thousands of hours, and here they are ranked from best to worst. As these MMOs are completely free to play, so let me know down in the comments if you will be trying any of them out, or if you are playing some already. So, if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. Star Trek Online is a really good game, best Star Trek game available today. If you're not a fan of Star Trek, then you will most likely grow tiresome of the game, but for fans of the TV shows, get ready for an engaging experience. There are many different ships to choose from, customizable gear, and many more positive aspects of the game. Star Trek Online is free to play, but like everything else in life, if you wanna go ahead, you have to do what some are not willing, which is spending cash to purchase upgrades. Graphics are not the latest and sharpest, but they're not horrible either. If you love Star Trek, then you must try this game for sure. But after 14 years, the game has been ruined by lazy devs and overall poor project management. Got it and stitched back together after so many times, the game is really fun up until a point, and then the cracks really start to show. Stories with dead end, advanced abilities that don't quote-unquote work as advertised, and a microtransaction store that would make you wonder why there aren't more games for Star Trek fans, because apparently they've got nothing but time and money to spend on video games. After you finish the most of the initial story, which for sure I would recommend for a Star Trek fan, the game gets a little loose with storyline and just comes off like insert an average modern sci-fi junk. Much like the Marvel's Adventures, the rest of the game, besides the story, just feels like an amped-up commercial to sell you more of their products just for now for the low price of $70 a piece. Honkai Star Rail is a role-playing gacha free-to-play game. The game follows the gameplay style of classic Japanese role-playing games, where players build up a lineup of characters and control a team up to 4 in a turn-based combat. The reception of Honkai Star Rail has been polarizing, with some absolutely loving the game and others finding it boring. If you are on the fence, then here are the strengths and weaknesses that the game can offer. First, let's look into weaknesses. In the first few days of playing, the battle system is very simple. Attack, shield and heal. The complexity does not appear until much later in the game, where you have to manage your action points and save up ultimates for the right enemies. There's definitely more in store for the battle system, but it's definitely not apparent in the early endgame. Luckily, with the 2x speed modifier, the turns are fast enough that it feels like a rhythm game, rather than a turn-based one. Meanwhile, the game story does not hold your hand. In the intro alone, 6 different organizations are mentioned, plus a bunch of sci-fi fantasy words, so it's up to you to figure out what's happening. Which brings us to the most controversial strength of Honkai Star Rail. There's a massive number of NPCs, interactive items, and unmarked quests hidden in each map. There's a lot of charming interactions and ridiculous jokes that make each location feel very alive. So if you're that type of player that likes rummaging around all the alleyways of dense, maze-like cities, then this is the perfect game for you. But on the other hand, if you're that type of gamer that wants a skip button for the dialogue and you will rush through the main storyline, then you will probably not like this game. Genshin is a free-to-play action-adventure RPG game, mostly known for its gacha elements. The gameplay of this game is very solid in my opinion, so you can either way sit there and plan out your attacks like a smart person, or you can just press the mouse button until the target is dead. As far as story goes, it's honestly had no business having a story this good. Every character comes with personality, depth and with clear motivations to helping out as a traveler. Even characters who we will talk to maybe twice have a lot of personality put into them. Genshin is one of those that will actively reward you for sticking with it and paying attention to the story. In my opinion, this is a good way to do your story, as it serves as another motivation for the player to carry on through the game. Then moving on, as for the gacha elements, they can be really addicting once you pull a 4 or 5 star character. But of course, that dopamine eventually wears off, and your attitude towards the elements feels sore. Of course, until you pull up the next sweet character. Personally, I don't have much to say here, it's just gambling, but it's still a decent part of the game. Tower of Fantasy is a free-to-play open-world action role-playing game. and initially it was marketed as the Genshin killer. And in my opinion, developers shot themselves in the foot by trying to market this game as not a new experience, but rather than just a superior version of Genshin, which, spoiler alert, it's not. I will not go over again what gacha games are and how they work, as most of the players either play Genshin or Tower of Fantasy, so this time I'm just going to compare them and let you choose which one you like better. Genshin is an open world fantasy one-person RPG. However, Tower of Fantasy is an open world sci-fi MMORPG. If we take a look at the quality, then Genshin is on another level when it comes to quality between the two. Every scenario is beautiful. It's a game where you can just stop and take pics of the view. As far as plot and story goes, Genshin writing varies a lot, going from bad to kinda good, and the best writing seems to be on the side quests for some reason. So while it's not a clear victory in this department, Tower of Fantasy still doesn't surpass it. At best it stays just near it. But then when it comes to the quality of the voice acting and movement during plot scenes, Genshin wins, plus Tower of Fantasy plot kinda feels rushed. In the end, Tower of Fantasy isn't too bad. It's not really good at anything, but at least open world MMORPG gacha is still enough of a specific niche, and Tower of Fantasy is one of the better games at doing that. I wouldn't really recommend to try this game over Genshin, but if you're out of fresh gacha content, then this game is not the worst pick. However, unfortunately, it will fall off even harder when you compare it to Genshin Impact. Perhaps a lot of the negative reception it has received is precisely because people are playing expecting superior Genshin, rather than playing for a new MMORPG of lower quality. Life is Feudal MMO is a very hardcore game, where surviving alone is almost impossible. Each character has their own unique specialization, both in peace and war. Overall, there are two daily game periods called the peacetime and wartime. During peacetime, you and other players should explore the world, collect resources and craft equipment. But then during the hour of war, you can switch to your combat profession to fight with players from another guild. The sandbox element is the most important gameplay component of the game, because each player is free to define their own goals and ambitions. So from the farmer's lifestyle, to building castles and even political disputes between major guilds and much more. In my opinion, Life is Feudal really provides the players with a true medieval survival sandbox experience. You can do whatever you want. You want to ride a horse? Go for it. You want to become a monk and live on top of a mountain and survive off the land? Go for it. When it comes to the player choice, this game has everything imaginable. Another good thing about Life is Feudal is that it's not actually pay to win, so all you need to do is after the free period expires, you have to buy the monthly subscription to access the game and that's it. Other players can't get an advantage over by just simply paying more IRL money. Everything done in the game, like owning your land or getting items, can easily be earned by playing the game. As far as complexity goes, again, we get everything we want, from complex crafting, to farming, to a cool building system and etc. And then finally, this game is very grindy, and for me it's a massive plus. I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea, but for a hardcore experience, this is exactly what I was looking for. The game is by far not as grindy as for example Vern Online, which for me makes the grind actually entertaining. Also, your skills keep advancing while you're offline, as long as you have unspent XP on you, so no matter if you're mainly a PvP or PvE player, or just right in the middle between both, you will find hours upon hours to do, and the whole world will be just waiting for you to dominate either way in trade, in crafting, or just by simply conquering it with your guild members. On the surface, Lord of the Rings is the epitome of everything that encapsulated the mmorpg craze of the 2000s. You can find a quest giver, accept their quest, go out and do the quest, often by just killing X number of boars or bears, or finding however many other monsters, and then returning to the starting point, hopefully with a slightly better piece of equipment, or at least with some nifty consumables. While I have a lot of respect for free-to-play games as detailed and sprawling as Lord of the Rings, don't expect it to stay free forever. It's hardly an issue at the beginning of the game, when Lord of the Rings store icon is ever so present on your screen, but everything behind it is a luxury. Keep leveling up and you will explore new areas, fight new often reskinned monsters, and complete more quests, just to keep gaining XP and progressing through the game. However, a lot of the mid to high level areas are locked behind the paywall. What I recommend for most players is to skip the microtransactions, and if you're enjoying the game, just pay the monthly membership fee instead. It will unlock basically all the essentials you need. So overall, Lord of the Rings Online is the product of its time. That time was 16 years ago, but it's still good enough support to keep it running and receive some cool new updates. If you're a Tolkien fan who wants to experience the Middle Earth from just off to the side of the Fellowship of the Ring, or you just missed the way mouse and keyboard MMORPGs used to feel, then Lord of the Rings is probably worth a shot. FK Journey is the successor to the popular FK Arena that millions of players have already played, and this release brings the new element, the ethereal fantasy RPG, with its distinctive visuals, interactive gameplay mechanics, and added dimensions with its side-scrolling elements. FK Journey is a cross-platform game that can be played both on PC and mobile devices. It features a top-down perspective and allows players to navigate through the pathways, interact with NPCs, clear obstacles, and fight enemies. The combat system is mainly auto-battle, but players need to strategically position their units and use abilities at the right time. The game also offers an equipment system that applies universally to all characters, making it convenient and time-saving. So, overall, FK Journey allows players to passively collect resources by being AFK, which is a key feature of the game. The rates of the resource generation increases with higher levels. The game also offers quests to document player progression and provide rewards. Guild quests and global chat will allow for multiplayer interaction and communication. In my few hours of playing this game, I really enjoyed the art style. The game feels very smooth on PC, and the lack of loading screens when teleporting or going between zones is very nice, and it feels like the whole world is one big open space to explore. FK Journey has much better storytelling to their previous game, the FK Arena. Anyone as a player gets rewarded for map completion, and even by being AFK. So I feel like new or old players can start playing at any time and feel rewarded for their time invested. Blade and Soul is a martial arts themed MMORPG. The game has beautiful anime aesthetics and features many different classes to play. There are a bunch of dungeons available for players to complete, along with difficult quests and other activities for players to participate in. The game also has a focus on fast-paced PvP, which is split into World PvP and Arena PvP. The population in Blade and Soul has been in decline over the recent years, with many players jumping ship to the other games. However, it still has an active core of players, and the game is updated frequently with the new content and events. As far as pay-to-win goes, there are pay-to-win elements in Blade and Soul, which have been a big source of controversy. The game has been dubbed pay-to-win by many players, as the paid cash shop items can provide players with a significant edge over non-paying players. So overall, Blade and Soul definitely isn't a game for everyone, but if you're a fan of martial arts games, it's one of the best MMOs out there. As this game is free to play, so I for sure at least recommend to try it out, because of its unique art style and fast-paced combat system. Rift is a massively multiplayer online adventure game, set in the dynamic fantasy universe. Imagine you are teleported back to the year 2011, when there was an upcoming game called Rift. Everything was fresh and shiny, and all of the World of Warcraft players, who got upset over endless grinding, were gaslighting each other to restart their journey in this other game. Well, this was the id game. The small community was exceptionally close to each other and it was magical. This MMO used to be basically WoW but better. I really enjoyed playing Rift a lot when it released, and I stopped playing it a year or so later. I had completely forgot about Rift, which was unfortunate, but apparently, when I tried it out again a few months ago, the game is pretty much as dead as any game could be. I really can't stress this enough, but Rift developers turned this once legendary MMO into a lifeless cash cow, as they fired the majority of their original dev team, leaving only a handful to keep it running. It really is better just to shut down the game and let the fans revive it as a private server, because at least then, there would be people working on it that actually care about the game. Microtransactions are rampant in Rift. Everything can be bought with real money, including but not limited to gear, armor and weapons, mounts, cosmetics, and many of these things can be only purchased with real money. So you could easily spend $1,000 on armor and mounts, and probably not even own all of them. Raid Shadow Legends is a mobile role-playing game that is available on PC as well. With about 100 hours under my belt, this is one of those games I wish I could give a mixed recommendation, as it is a pay-to-win game that has heavily predatory and targeted pay-to-win elements. You absolutely can play without spending, but prepare for a long grind. You also have to meticulously plan events in order to reach the top prizes without spending. You do get a good several hundred energy when completing daily quests, but outside of that, you gain 1 energy every 3 minutes, so it will take 5 hours to fill completely. And a single dungeon can take 40 energy when you can complete it in 7 seconds. It's about 5 hours of waiting just to play for 21 seconds. There is a decent amount of things to work towards, unlock, and it's certainly fun. I do recommend this game if you have time and are prepared to put in effort, but don't expect to win any tournaments or be on top of the leaderboards, as you're always grouped up with whales, and that's about it. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or maybe you would place a different game in this tier list, then you're feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe, and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and not miss any more amazing content. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video, so take it easy, peace.